So good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Wright, and on behalf of the ACPEnw board, I'd like to welcome you to the conference. So glad you're here, and it's a little warm. We appreciate that, but we'll deal with it. So if you're in a session where you think that you're hearing from the Kennewick School District about their IAM, then you're in the right place. And I'm going to hand this off to Eric Beach, and then he'll take it from here. Thank you very much for presenting.
It's okay just to wear this?
Yeah, totally okay.
Try to keep that in front. Hello, everybody. So, Eric Beach with Kennewick School District, accelerating EdTech initiatives with modern IAM. Who knows what that means? Or what does that mean? Nobody. All right, we're single sign-on. Some of that, yeah. We're going to figure it out though. Let's go on. You mind kicking the slide? So first, a little bit about myself. Identity Automation made this slide for me. I'm not this famous. They did do a little Googling on me. They found this nice picture of me here. I don't know if you guys can see. Got my ACPEnw mug. Must have been hot off a couple years ago. Got my poker chips. If I had picked this picture, I got a more recent one. I have a much bigger monitor now. Anyway, but we'll forgive them for that. I have been with the school district for 14 years. I was an intern with the tech department when I was in high school. I've held many titles throughout my career: help desk, computer support analyst, network administrator. Most recently, I made this title, IT and Building Systems and Deployment Manager. And what that means is I wear a lot of hats. I work on CCTV stuff, any building automation stuff, along with SCCM, G Suite, Active Directory, and Active Directory is really where it relates to identity automation and rapid identity. Rapid Identity Champion. I have a small team of 3 people. A little bit about the Kennewick School District. We do preschool through the 12th grade, 29 schools and growing. Every year we seem to build a new school or two. 19,000 students, always growing. 2.6 thousand staff, they're active. All under 16 IT staffers, which is why we wear a lot of hats. Of course, we have a strong focus on enabling significant EdTech environment, which I think you guys probably all do also, because you're here at ACPEnw. So I asked my boss for a mission statement, and this is what I got from him the first part here. The Kennewick School District IT department is all about providing excellent customer service while managing costs and expectations. He's a CPA, if you guys didn't know. Anyway. Makes some sense with that. The bottom quote is mine, and it really is true. Rapid Identity is a silent champion in the background, allowing us to incorporate more technology in the classroom and provide a seamless experience for students, teachers, and staff. And that really is true. All right. A little bit about our connected systems. We'll start with the computers. We have about 15,000 network computers, Chromebooks, iPads, laptops, desktops. 50 of those are laptop carts. Going to get more of those. We have about 150-ish servers, virtual machines, always running, doing something. We have a 10 gig fiber ring around the school district now, connecting all our buildings, which is really nice. And we recently upgraded the 5 gig internet. The major systems we have: Active Directory and Rapid Identity. We have our HR appliance, Business Plus, Power School, S2 Access Control. We have our classroom management stuff, Power School again, and Google, and just the Google platform itself, and School Messenger. All right. So the cornerstone of really everything we do in the Kennewick School District really ends up being on the Identity Access Manager. It's a great foundation for everything we do. It allows us to accelerate adoption of new applications. We're able to minimize disruptions in the classroom with it. We're able to facilitate the role. IT as a technology enabler and plays a critical role in the classroom success. It's very good. And of course, now we're able to increase security and compliance because of that. All right, to the next slide. All right, let's get a little more fun here. This is a little bit of a story about the Kennewick School District before we implemented Rapid Identity. And so Catalyst for Change. It's going to talk about the way it used to be and how it is now and some of the horrors that we used to experience. All right. So you guys probably do a lot of this. We had repetitive, tedious bulk processing. We would lose one of our employees at the beginning of the school year for about 2 weeks. He would sequester himself off in a conference room upstairs, get spreadsheets out of our SIS, try to get them in the right form for this hack job EBS script we had to upload them or run that import process, and that would only happen at the beginning of the year. Then after that, we'd have the help desk would make accounts, these one-offs, or maybe some of the librarians at the school, and we would hope they were done in the right fashion, often not. Would they get an email account? Would they not? Should the student get an email account? These are all questions that it's tough for these folks to answer, and we didn't have, great instructions for them to do it. And really, we had a potential for data loss. I don't know if any of you do group policy and folder redirection on Windows boxes. If you're familiar with that, if you don't have that folder there for that user, they think their stuff's on the network in their documents or my documents, but it might not be if that folder wasn't made. And if that machine gets imaged or the hardware fails, you have a potential for data loss. So that was a big concern. Help desk doing a lot of adds to groups. New photography kid comes in that class. We got to manually add them in, call them in. Maybe they call them to the librarian. But it was a lot of, again, what is the right process for the kid to get in that group, to get that map drive? What is even the right group for that? Who knows that? And zombie orphan accounts. Accounts didn't get deleted. Really with students, we wouldn't clear accounts out until we knew they graduated. We're like, all right, all these 12th grade or 2012 kids, they're clearly gone by now. It's 2014. We can delete them. For staff accounts, you say HR nixes a person. Hopefully we got the note on it. Maybe we didn't, and it could just be hanging around still. There wasn't a great process for clearing those out. All right.
Oops.
Whoa.
Up too far. I hit the end button. Fast forward.
Yeah, one more here.
There we go. Sorry.
All right. Student and staff accounts, they're fully automated with their creation from the data from the HR system, Business Plus, and the SIS Power School. Set the rules for when it means that account is here and it should be created, and that just happens on its own. The data is accurate, it's complete, it is inputted the way we want it every time, really almost instantaneous after a kid is enrolled or a person's hired and they meet the criteria for having an account made. We don't have any potential for data loss because we use the FMS module from Identity Automation through Rapid Identity, and that folder is made for that person every time. It just works fantastic. It makes it. It'll handle removal of it too. That's no longer a concern with us if you still are using a folder for folder redirection. We automated group management and rostering based on roles and attributes. So we have all this great data now on this Active Directory account. We know what course they're in, we know they're a student, we know what school they're at, so we can take this data and we can automatically populate groups with these automatically. We do it every half hour. It sees, all right, who matches this criteria, get into that. So Jimmy gets enrolled in Power School. He gets assigned a photography course. He's got enough data in that to automatically be given the photography group, gets the photography drive. That just happens on its own. I don't have to worry about that. We got to set all the course rules up first, but getting all that stuff figured out and then there, it's been fantastic. Accounts are deprovisioned on their own. We have rules set for when an account is no longer active, so we can say, all right, the kid's not enrolled in any courses anymore, or the kid is not showing up in our query to the HR system. That must mean they're not active, they're not an employee. Let's go ahead and deprovision that. Really means disable, and then we'll let it sit for, you can set all these custom rules. We'll let it sit for 3 months, and then, all right, timer's gone. Let's go ahead and delete it. Cleans up the folder, takes care of it, and it's gone. In short, it all just happens on its own. That's really the gist of it. This stuff just happens on its own. We forget about all the stuff now. Like, how did we do that before on its own? We have to make a one-off account to help desk. It's like, what are all the steps we got to do? It's such a time saver. It's tough to think how it used to be to go back with trying to get the help desk to make these accounts, and now I don't care who's sitting in that seat because they don't have to do that anymore. They can just reset passwords. Rapid identity benefits. Go over this a little summary. We automate the creation, update, and retiring process for students, AD and HR. We also use the Rapid Identity portal. It allows for federation. I don't know if you guys are doing some of the SAML stuff. I'm sure you all are. Rapid Identity is a portal for that. And they also have a web page where you can, it's very, very much like Clever. If you've seen Clever before, you have your applications, you put them in there, we federate through it, and you get instant log on. And we automatically target this also with some of that data in Active Directory. So Jimmy logs on, he goes to this portal, he sees the data he should see. And it doesn't matter if he's logging on from a Chromebook an iPad or a Windows device. If he gets through that portal, he's going to see the stuff he should see. Rapid Identity has been very flexible. They are very accommodating for whatever we want to do with the product in the future here. Like I talked a little bit before, the help desk doesn't have to do a whole lot. Even password resetting, we have consoles through Rapid Identity that the lab managers can utilize for taking care of that. And even some password resets, you can set self-recovery rules if you want to enable that, and maybe eliminate that entirely. A couple lessons here for when we spun this project up, some things I learned. Work out policy disagreements prior to automation. I have a great story. You guys might enjoy it. Is everyone's first name really their first name? I mean, on their Social Security card. All right, well, let's be tough. We're going to make everyone's display name their legal name. I don't care. You know, it's the data. Let's do that. We're not going to change their logon names, but the display name is now their legal first name. You got the power to do that. The problem with that is you have a superintendent named Dave, but his legal first name was Melvin. So we tried that. It didn't go over well. Now people are responding to him on emails, and they see the display name of Melvin. So we had to think of a solution for that, and Rapid Identity was very flexible. We were able to work with our business system, and we made a preferred name field where the employee could go in, set their own name, and then we simply told Rapid Identity, all right, if you see this pref name field set, don't care about the first name. Use that instead, and that's been a lifesaver. Another one, data privacy issues. Should the data go there? Well, you have Active Directory. You got address fields in there. Now you got all that student addresses. You know, I can fill Jimmy's address in there. Is it a good idea? I mean, it's there. You know, possible FERPA violation. I wouldn't recommend doing that. So just be aware. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Lesson 3, good technology can help old or missing data. This was a fun one too. So we have teachers that move from one building to another, and often their location code in HR is not up to date. They're processing the paperwork or whatever, and we can yell at them all day long. Sometimes it just doesn't happen until much after they're already at their new job. But we want to automate stuff off of that. We want to do email groups, security groups for things. It's like, how can we handle this one-off override and still accommodate automation down, further down the line? So what we ended up doing is we set a override location code field that our help desk can enter if we have one of these scenarios. We'll put the location code where the teacher is going to be, but we don't forget about the old one from the HR system. Rapid Identity stores it. Then later, when it sees that variable change, we then go back to trusting it. So it's a nice stopgap for maybe not bad data, missing data, and eventually we go back to automating again. That's been a lifesaver now, implementing that. Okay. Future identity initiatives. We are doing some two-form factor, some QR code. I don't know if any of you guys are doing QR code stuff. Rapid Identity also does that. We're going to be doing more of that with Chromebooks. We do some kiosk machines right now with it. We're going to get more directly into SSO. Sometimes you got to bend some arms to get your vendors to accept your new identity provider, but we're going to get more straight through Rapid Identity. More custom solutions. There's always something to tweak and make work better. Rapid Identity is very flexible getting that going. More deeper levels of rostering. We're going to keep rostering stuff. Applications are going away. I think we had 5 just hit my desk, and this I don't know if you guys are like this also, but they're all coming out of the woodwork now. We're getting all these requests for data, and Rapid Identity is really helping us roster those things and get imports into those applications. Just-in-time access. We talked a little bit about that with Jimmy gets enrolled in the class. He gets the right security group, and as soon as Jimmy's account's active, he can go right into photography. Like we automate it at time when they need it. Okay. Final lesson, Rapid Identity, they have just been so darn flexible with what we need for our processes. I can call in with a crazy idea, think of a solution. I can call into their help desk, hash it out with them, and by the end of the day, it can be implemented. If we sign off and check that it's okay. They have one of the best help desks that I've worked with. They're very responsive, and they haven't yet told me that I'm insane with some things I want to try to do. So, very happy with them. All right, now I'm going to hand this off to Greg. I'll show you a little more. Yep.
Thank you, Eric. So just a quick introduction on me. My name is Greg Pierson. I'm a principal sales consultant, which is a fancy word for I'm an engineer that sits in the sales organization. So I'm the one that gets to answer all the technical questions and do the demos, and the sales guys get to do all the contracts. So I'm just going to go through a quick, I'm not going to slide you to death. I've got like 2 or 3 slides, and then I'm going to do a quick demo just so you can actually see the product live and working, because I think that's what shows best. So Eric touched on quite a few things. They're doing a lot with our platform, and they still have a long way to go with some of the things that we've done. We set out, just to give you guys a quick background, we set out originally as a consulting organization. We implemented some of the larger Oracle Identity Managers, Novell Identity Managers back in the day, and that's what I actually came on board to do as a consultant. And then we sort of grew up and became a software company and decided to release our own that met more of the needs for education to start. That's our biggest focus is education. We have hundreds of K-12 customers throughout the entire U.S. And one of our largest customers is the state of North Carolina. We actually do all of the identity and access management provisioning for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and all the school districts that are there. So in addition, we have lots of customers. We have small customers too, very small customers. So we scale up and down as needed. Our solution is designed for that. These are a few of the features. We cut our teeth in automated lifecycle management, which is the biggest bulk of what school districts do every year. You have the influx of students, new teachers, you have movement. I mean, it's like chaos, right? And as soon as you do your rollover for your student information system, you know, it's game on, right? You got to start doing these things. So we're familiar with that. That's what, you know, we try to build our products to be, you know, responsive to that and flexible so that we understand that happens. But that's not when the changes stop, because you have semesters, you have things that roll over, you have summer courses. We're finding a lot more districts now that are almost year-round. I'm sure you guys recognize that you have classes that are running in the summer as well. So password management, as Eric alluded to, you know, a lot of the calls that come in are, I forgot my password. You know, one of the biggest things I always say is, students will find a way, if they can, to not take a test by saying, I can't get onto the computer, do my homework. I get this with my kids. You know, my HRW isn't working. I'm like, well, keep trying, because it's going to work. I promise you. You can't just say you didn't do your homework because my HRW doesn't work. So one of the things that we did is we built into our platform the capability for delegated administration, which is it pushes it actually out to the classroom if you desire that, so the teachers can reset student passwords right there in the classroom. Even better if we can get away from using passwords and use something like QR codes or pictograph or something that the younger students know. They don't have to remember those passwords and keep those things in mind. We support that as well. Comprehensive governance, probably not as big a deal for K-12. That's more for our enterprise customers. Secure single sign-on, definitely seeing a lot of this in the K-12 world with the applications, especially as a lot of these curriculum and EdTech applications are going to the cloud. So we do support that. We support all the federation protocols, and we support form fill as well for those applications that are still sitting back in the dark ages and haven't decided to do federation yet. And then adaptive MFA, we have the most complete offering for multi-factor, probably have methods you guys could care less about. We have some that are for law enforcement and federal government and things like that, but we do support also QR codes, pictograph. We do push technology to your phone, which I'll demonstrate here in a second, as well as one-time passwords and things like that. We are seeing a lot of our K-12 customers start to pick up on and start to use these things, especially for privileged accounts and those that have sensitive information. And then, of course, last thing, privileged access management. So how do you secure, you know, who you're giving admin access to, administrator, domain administrator, access to, who has access to the databases, the database servers, those kind of things. We're able to secure that down. So we build it as a platform, not just as a point products. You'll find products that are sitting in each of these areas individually, but we build a platform that encompasses all of that with a business-facing or customer-facing user interface. As you can see here, this is my marketing people. They put this slide together. So configurable with no coding. We did build it to be configurable, so you can, as a customer, can go in and tweak things, add rules and policies and things like that, so you don't have to call in professional services. Because the one thing that's hard for everybody in here is going to the well to get funds to pay for professional services, because that gets very expensive. In fact, I think you just took some training. Right, we offer training that.
And if you did want to code it, it's not too bad. It's some Java-based stuff, but it's made in a form that is easy to understand. You can tweak it. No problem.
Exactly. It's more actions with properties and verbs and things like that. So Purpose-built for K-20, as I mentioned, we started in education anyway, so we built this out of the experience of seeing when we put a Novell Identity Manager in. You had to call us back as consultants to do all the XML and XSLT to make these things work. Well, we just bought a new system. Now we have to have a connector for it and those kind of things. We made it so you don't have to do that in our platform. Massively scalable. I talked about our 10 million users that are in North Carolina. We scale up, we host all of that in the cloud, and then the local districts have the option of running that software locally for their local applications as well. We have no disparity between our on-premise or in the cloud, and we do host it for some school districts. They've gone completely to the cloud with our solution. We host it for them, and there's no loss of features between that, and we can work with on-premise or cloud-based systems. And then we do a fast deployment. We're not going to be a 6 or 12 or 18-month deployment. We're going to be a 4 or 6 or 8-week deployment instead. So get it up and running as quick as we can. Logo slide, obligatory marketing thing. So we've got some big districts, but as I mentioned, we have some small districts too, so we can handle those sizes. And we sized it because that was what we found. A lot of the larger districts could afford your Oracles and Novells, but they couldn't afford an identity management. The smaller ones couldn't afford the identity management platform, so we built it for that. And just a quick look at the portal. I'm going to actually show this because I don't think slides are a good way of doing this. And we'll take a look at it. So how am I doing on time? Oh, okay, good. I spoke too fast. All right, let me get that. All right, so our platform is delivered through a browser. This is actually my production. It's the latest and greatest release. So you'll see a little bit of difference as I go into the demo environment. But we do have a demo environment that we use to do demos all the time. And this allows us to show these things in action. So I'm going to log on as myself just because I want to show you some of the back-end administrative things as well. What this is going to do, because I'm an employee, it's actually going to ping me. It's going to actually alert me on my phone that I have an authentication request, and once I put my thumbprint there or fingerprint there, it's prompting me and saying, hey, somebody tried to log in. As soon as I hit approve, it's going to log me in. So that's just an example of push authentication that we have with our platform. This also has, the application also has a one-time password on it as well.
So it's two-factor.
Two-factor.
You can do that for your entire environment?
You absolutely can. And in fact, you can do it selectively as well, which is a good point. So you can do that for your IT group and your financial group, and the rest of the staff doesn't get prompted with that if you don't want to. Doesn't apply to students. You can do individualistic policies based on any type of, slice and dice it however you want. So comes up, as Eric mentioned, we have the SSO capability. And to be honest, this is just one of our capabilities within our platform. We have some customers that already have an SSO platform. They've landed on one. That's fine. We still can do all of the other features. We can still offer that. You can actually choose not even to display each of these modules as you see those. So it's configurable by you as a customer to say, I don't want that. And I'm going to go ahead and run through a demo, an actual use case. We'll provision an account, and I'll show you in real life how it got provisioned and we're working right away. But wanted to show you on the back end a few things, as Eric talked about. Security groups, we have what we call a roles module, and apologies, we're going through a UI, UX change, so you may have seen it flip there. That's actually changed at this point, but on the demo environment, we're still a couple of releases behind. I do want to show you that we do have the capability to manage roles. You can define these roles. These can be groups. In this case, I'm just using an example of IT management. It'll auto-synchronize, which means what it does is it goes out to Active Directory, looks at the accounts that are out there, looks at what the qualifications or the rules are for being in this security group, and it reevaluates if it should add, remove, or just keep it the same. So it does that. I can indicate multiple owners. Owners just mean that I can manage this itself. Membership managers, which is below that, means I can actually sign people out in the business. If you have tech specs or if you have librarians, for example, that you want to be able to add. Question?
Yeah, so you talk about defining what is, pinnacle or the top of the pyramid in your environment, whether it's your SIS or your AD or whatever it is. Does it matter what that needs to be to work with your system?
Absolutely not. We can integrate with any of those and both of those. In most districts, we find obviously the HR and the SIS are separate. And in some cases, we find that there are actually maybe multiple of each of those.
Okay.
So absolutely, authoritative data can come from anywhere.
We play them together. We take some data from the HR system, we take some data from PowerSchool, and some PowerSchool data will go back to the employee side.
And likewise, some data is not authoritative through those systems, like your phone data and possibly even your email data if you're generating email addresses, or if you have another system, we'll bring that data in and we can send it back.
How do you handle student teachers and contractors?
So we do that through affiliations. That's very common higher ed. So we have a lot of experience in doing that. It's really just managing those affiliations and understanding what their roles are in each. Now, when you're doing single sign-on, it becomes a challenge because the application itself has to permit that type of functionality. So when we display an icon, for example, PowerSchool does this. If you go to PowerSchool, you can go in as a teacher, you can go in as a student. So from that perspective, we store all the data for both of those affiliations, and then we just, depending on what access they get and what application is what affiliation is associated with that.
So it's another data source you would pull from?
It could be, absolutely. So they could come from both, or yeah, absolutely. So one of those things we see in K-12 is a lot of times substitute teachers don't come through an HR system. They come through another system or they may come from a text file. We can bring that data in and then assign them step-up rights. If they become a long-term sub, they can get additional capabilities because they have a different influx or ingestion point, but we can actually assign them access to applications based on any changes that we've seen from the authoritative system.
So if a substitute teacher comes into a school, will they be given rights to that school for that day?
It could be, yeah.
And it's from the substitute application?
Absolutely, depending on, and then if they move the next day to another school, as long as that authoritative system says that, or we have something in our platform that they can do an override, like Eric mentioned, and move them over to that and get access.
Transactional?
Yeah, it can be, absolutely. So just to round out the group, you can create membership managers, push that capability out. I have a couple of examples of things we can sync to. Those are just for the demo environment. These could sync to all of those platforms if you wanted. The nice thing there is we're keeping distribution lists, we're keeping security groups on other applications up to date with that membership list. And last thing I'll spend on this is just, this is where it really becomes powerful, is that you can define the rules through what we call dynamic membership. So in this case, I set a base D and an AD, but I also came in here and I made it friendly because a lot of the end users don't know what the LDAP attributes are. But we built this. This is an OR statement saying if your title is one of these, or if your username is this, you qualify for membership in this particular group. So in this case, right now the way this is built, if I do a preview membership, I have several members there that meet those criteria. If I go in and I modify this, take this out because it doesn't make sense anyway, then I do a preview membership, you'll notice I have 2 removal pending. So what it's going to do is remove those the next time this group is synced. And then any downstream, so Office 365, Google, any other applications that are using this group, they would be removed downstream as well, like that. So that's why it's just-in-time access. And it's going to happen. And I have this scheduled to do it every hour, but in the case that I want to actually make this happen, it tells me synchronization is needed. I can actually select that, sync, choose yes. I'll do a refresh, and that particular group is now current. Make sure the membership and those members are gone. And now it would be propagating down to the other systems as well.
Is there audit logs associated that you can? Absolutely.
Yeah, so all of this stuff shows up in a dashboard, and you have the capability to see what's happened. So for example, the 2 that I just removed because I did that, it lotted those right there. So you can get reports on these as well, but you have a real-time dashboard that shows these events as they take place.
So you had an A name that was a student that didn't get dropped off, but I didn't see a role for a student.
Back in the IT management?
So you show membership. The first one, Ashley, is it a student?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was doing a demo the other day, and I forgot I left that in there, so this was me not cleaning that up. That is actually a static inclusion. So I actually statically added Ashley. So we do support that, of course. So
Yeah.
that was a fantastic catch. Thank you. I couldn't have teed that up better. I would give you $5 or something, or a chip, or actually, chip. There you go. You deserve that. That was awesome. You can't tee it up any better. So yeah, that was I was showing somebody statically adding somebody, and that's what you got to be careful of, because once you add them statically, that's the whole purpose of static, is they stay there until you remove them. So in this particular case, we're going to get rid of Ashley, save, and again, it wants to be synchronized, so I can select it and synchronize it. So this is just the role management piece of it, as I mentioned, and I want to do last thing, and we'll try to give you up. Did not. Sure, I got it. Do a refresh. Okay, there we go. Make sure she's gone, and we're good. Okay. So I do want to run through and provision a new user just so you can see what it looks like. So let me go ahead and launch this first. So we have a make-believe HR system. So this is not part of our product. I always have to do this on every demo. Not part of our product. This is just us using a database to simulate an HR system. So pretend this is your HR system, whatever you use. And we're just going to add somebody. And I'll add somebody as a teacher. So Eric, I don't think you're in here, so we'll add you. What's your, how's that, B-E-A-C-H? Okay, we'll make sure I get it right. And we'll just make you active. So this is, again, assuming HR does what they're supposed to do, and we'll put you in as a teacher. Not giving you any kind of change there, but we'll just show it. And we'll put you at the high school. And we'll make your supervisor Baggins, that's fine. So what that's doing is that's just simulating somebody in HR, putting somebody into the HR system. That's all I've done here. But what's happening is Rapid Identity in the background, our Connect product is actually reaching out to the database, sees a new addition, is evaluating everything it needs, determining that based on the rules, and provisioning all the associated accounts and granting all the access. So now the question is that's great. Eric, how do you know, what are your credentials? How do you know what your credentials are? So you don't. So what we would do, and this is just one way of doing this, is under profiles. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to manage profiles. And because I'm an administrator, and you could delegate this out to others, I have 42 accounts here. And I can actually search for Eric. And there is the account that was created for Eric. This is a view of Active Directory data, by the way. We're just displaying that, and we can change the names so they're much more friendly for end users. And we have what we call a claim code here, so we can, and it's very simple in this demo environment. We're going to give Eric the claim code. Eric, your claim code is 5133, if you'll remember that for me. And we're going to show you how to claim your account as a teacher. So we would send you to a kiosk, or we would send you to somewhere like the library to go ahead and claim your account. So 5133, remember that, and then what we're going to do is come back in. And we have an option here. This is also where we do our self-service. And by the way, this can be completely branded with your logos, your colors, your look and feel, so it doesn't look like it's some weird application and your teachers and students don't know where they're going. So we have an option for claiming my account. And in doing that, it's going to come up, it's going to say, well, what policy? Well, Eric, we hired you as an employee, but there could be multiple policies. And we'll do it as an employee. And the first thing it's going to say is claim code. And your claim code was? 5133. It's good for one use. Usage policy, the recapture, which I absolutely hate, are all optional. You can turn those things off. We have them on there for demo purposes. You can publish your own usage policy or link to it, of course. Choose I'm not a robot, click next, and you can create a password. I'll make one up for you that I will show everybody where I hail from if you haven't figured that out here. So we do Houston 1, which matches our criteria there. And first thing it did is it told me what your username is, and we support any types of algorithm for your username. So if you want to do it a certain way, because there's all kinds of stories around usernames, but we do support that. In our system, we generate it first initial, last name, and requiring you to answer a few of your questions here. So we'll just punch in some answers, and we got to do 2 or 3. I'm sorry. got that done, we'll click next. Sorry for my one password. So it tells us we're complete. Here's your username. So at this point, we can close this tab. Go back here. Put our password in that we just set. And when you first log in, this is your experience. So great, looks like there's icons there. And, you know, that looks fantastic. You got less modules than I did as an administrator. You have the old look and feel. We certainly can switch to that. And we'll just make that from now on. It's going to show that you don't have any bookmarks, but we still have your applications here. And just to show that it's real, we'll launch into Google. There's our acceptance policy. And we're up and running in our Google environment. So,
yeah, the claims are really cool. We have 2 kiosks set up in our office. As soon as employees get hired from HR, they just come down and we have kiosks going right to the staff claim policy. And you don't have to use a claim code. We do like birth dates and employee numbers. If they know that and know how to spell their name correctly, you know, they can claim their account themselves. And once account is touched or logged in once, it's like no longer out for a claim. And it works really well. We no longer have to facilitate that. Oh, what's my account? Let's go use this machine.
And to not leave our Office 365 customers out, we'll also launch into Office 365 and show you we provision an Outlook mailbox. It's brand new. Pick Pacific time. There we go. And you're up and going with that as well. So everything that's associated with that, et cetera. Yes, sir.
This looks like it could replace my ADFS server. Is that true? It would load up all my...
ADFS, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And we're not going to require the extra infrastructure for that. So our stuff runs as virtual appliances.
Now, what do you need my ADFS?
Nope. And you wouldn't need your Azure AD Connect either.
Or the Google Sync?
Nope, no GADs, no gaps. We replace all that. Yep, no agents. There is an agent server for Office 365. I do take that back because we have to make the remote PowerShell calls because that's what they require. If they would have gone to a RESTful API like everybody else in the world, we wouldn't have to do that. But it's just any Windows box. A lot of times we just take one of the existing appliances that you have, a Windows appliance. It doesn't have to be anything special. It can be the most basic Windows appliance that just runs a .NET application that runs remote PowerShell. Sorry, remote PowerShell. There we go.
So the connection to PowerSchool is through an API currently?
So it can be. We do support their API. It could be direct database calls. So a lot of times we get a view set up for us, and we're reading from that view. If we write back, we'll ask for a staging table, and then we use whatever to write.
Synergy. And
Okay.
Not exactly a fully fleshed out API available. So
Yeah.
Just doing web services off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully support web services, fully support database. From that perspective, our Connect product has a number of adapters. So it'll do, we have a specific adapter for Office 365, Google, including the Google Classroom API. We have Workday. I'm trying to think of the specific ones, but we have some very generic ones as well, which are LDAP, text, so we can support any kind of text, CSV, XML, JSON. We also have a generic database, generic web services, so that's how we hit all of the web services. And we've done some specific adapters based off of web services, so things like Box.com and Okta. We have adapters for several of our competitors, which seems ironic, but if you want to run Okta, we can provision to Okta too, and do that as well.
If you do have the client set up for something like 365, that could be used for any PowerShell scripts.
Absolutely.
They have to be run locally.
Exactly. Yep. And that good point there. That reminds me, we also have an open CLI adapter command line interface that runs native PowerShell. It also runs Bash scripts in Unix. So it'll run something on your router if you were so daring to open up SSH to it as well. So those are good questions. Anything else?
Do you map Google Drives or
So
365 or
we
OneDrive?
we don't map the drives because they provide their interfaces, but we can manage the Google Drives to move. So once somebody leaves, if you need to move all that content over to somebody, we do that through the API.
Is this all one product that you purchase one, you get all these things you're talking about?
Good question, and that's what he's for. It is modularized by the function that you want. It's not by a price. So if you want to buy automated lifecycle management, it's going to give you every adapter, and it's going to allow you to connect to the systems that you need to and do everything from creation, management, deletion, disablement of accounts. But if you want SSO, that's a separate function.
Okay.
So it's sold that way.
We're currently very heavy Tools Forever.
Okay.
And we have to purchase URMA, IAM, SSRPM for self-password reset tool, and then Hello ID to deal with the SSO stuff you're talking about.
Right.
I'll have to come by your booth.
Definitely, and if you're this is the shameless sales plug, even though he's the sales guy. If you're Umra Tools Forever user, I'm sure he'll get competitive with that. So. he'll try to do what he can. So I don't get anything off that. I'm just the geeky guy that talks about our products. Last thing I did want to show. How are we doing on time? We okay? Good. Excellent. Okay, last thing I do want to show, let me just close out some of these tabs. So we have these out of our way here. So go ahead and well, first of all, let me show you a little bit about what Eric can do. He can go into his profile. He could, upload a picture of himself. He has some identifiable information. Ignore the employee IDs in our demo environment. My CTO, when he first did this several years back, went crazy with GUIDs and had everything created with GUIDs. So, but you can see what entitlements he's been granted. You can see the location he's at, manager, the roles that he's in. For example, so he's been added to a teacher's role. He can come in and edit his profile, and there are only certain things that he's allowed to change. So he can change his mobile number. And Eric, if you don't mind, can I put your mobile number, or do you want me to use mine? I can use mine. All right, we'll use mine. Just because I'm going to show something here. So I'll put that in there. And then I've made an option for doing a preferred authentication method if you wanted to do that. So you normally not really going to let your users choose which authentication methods, but just to show it in the demo, somebody asked us about it. So he can make that change himself. And what that will allow him to do is have a little bit more capabilities. So that's just kind of self-service. He also has a little dashboard of things that have gone on. So these are alerts. If he had any tasks or anything or activity that's gone on, if he had any tasks to complete, all of that shows up here. And then additionally, he could come in and in addition to launching these applications, he actually could come in and request additional applications as well. So if he went back to his dashboard, just to show you this is when you get really advanced in IAM. This is what he's been granted access to currently. He has these entitlements, but this is his catalog that he can request from. So he could actually come in and say, well, you know what? I also need access to Jira, for example. The ones that are checked were what we call birthright access. These are things because he's a teacher, he's been granted birthright access to, but he may need exceptional access to Jira. He can submit that request. And in our demo environment, we're not going to require approval, but you could have it go through approvals. The grant's been requested. Do a refresh. It's in progress, which means it's actually going out and provisioning the Jira account. And this is the just-in-time that we were talking about. So it takes a little bit longer with Jira. And come on. There we go. Okay, so it finally got granted. I go back here. Do a refresh, and we have Jira. So there you go. So he's been granted just-in-time access to Jira. Question?
Those entitlements, so when you first set him up, you really only set up two things. One, that he was a teacher, and the other is his location. So all those entitlements are based off of one of those two roles? In
the demo environment. Yep. It absolutely could be based off a whole set of information, the data that you bring in. So, and it could be information from multiple systems, going back to the question I think you asked about having multiple authoritative systems. We can actually combine that data together and make decisions on that as well. So the other thing is data that, I'm sure I'm speaking to everybody that knows this already, if you have data that comes out of these systems, it's not always exactly as it needs to be, and there's things that have to be formatted a certain way. Display names are a great case because a lot of times they're stored separately, or you have a generational qualifier that's stored in the last name field, which I see all the time in the old systems. we have the ability to do what's in the corporate world known as extract, transform, and load. So we'll extract the data out, and we'll do transformations on that, bust it apart, or concatenate data together, and we can store it in fields, and we'll store it in auxiliary attributes outside of the standard ones, so you're not forced to only use the ones that the AD requires or has available. So, and then we can base access on anything, on any attribute, any set of data. We do role-based and attribute-based access controls, and then going above and beyond that we just saw is entitlement-based access controls. So you get an entitlement, which could be a combination of attributes or roles, and then it grants you access to that. So last thing I do want to show is some of the self-service capabilities as well. So let me log out. And Eric forgets his password. So we have this. This is just a couple of methods right here in our need help. We've got now I forgot my username. That's for more of our corporate customer type environments where it sends it off to a third-party email, and then they can reset their username, probably use that for your banks or other Amazon or whatever it might be. But you can do the traditional forgot my password, which when you do this, it brings up the screen, you enter your username. Again, the CAPTCHA is all optional. Branding is capable. You can do whatever you want there. You enter the username. It's going to come back, randomly present Eric with a couple of challenge questions. He gets those right. It's going to give him the opportunity to change his password, and then he's good to go. He can log in and start using it. That's one method. The Spicer method, which I like to show, is the one below that, which is I forgot my password and using SMS or email. Now, this may not be a student thing, but this is taking advantage of some of our APIs. We've got a completely robust API behind this as well. And here, we can enter the username or the email address. So, put in Eric's name. It's going to run off. It's going to say, let me look this up. And when it gets a response back, it's going to say, oh, here's your options. So Eric, we put my mobile in, but your mobile, and primary email address, which is the one for the demo environment. And we don't have a secondary email address. Had we filled that out, you'd be able to choose to send that. So in doing that, of course, I'll leave it at mobile, click submit, and hopefully, oh, you know what? I have no service. So I'm not going to get that. And unfortunately it's SMS, so it won't do over iMessage. But later on, when I get SelfService, I'll get a ding. So essentially, it sends me this exact same message. And the point is, we redact it, of course. So you can't just come in and just randomly do this. It's going to send it only to my phone. At that point, then, he can go in, and he'll have the password. It's not shown there, but in the email and in the text message, it would give him a temporary password. Once he uses that, it's going to force him to change it. That's just an AD thing. We just set the last password set to 0, and it forces him to change it. So just a cool way of doing that. This is all HTML. Can be done from your iPad. I've done it from my phone myself, and when I have service. So, any questions about any of these things?
I have a question on how you handle new rollovers. One version where. So if students have access to a certain tool, and you want to roll over so the teachers start to track for the following year, but you want to allow continuity of service for the students over the summer, how would you handle that?
Oh, so I'm sure there's lots of solutions, but I stop taking data at the cutoff, and I wait until a certain date, and then I can start.
Like a pause, essentially?
Yeah, I'll put a pause on it, and then actually before I start school, because some of the things don't match, I have a separate job, which will do like, all right, summertime roll up to roll these accounts in. But we'll put a pause on it, essentially, or a cheap solution. But I'm sure there's lots of things you can customize in there to do anything.
That's actually pretty common. We'll either take, a lot of our customers will either take changes as they come. So as they start to publish these things, mass chaos, and it does whatever it needs to do at that point whenever somebody pushes the button and the next dump gets done or the database is updated. But we've also had, like Eric does it himself, but we've actually had solutions that are built where we pause it at a certain date. Rollover's always between July 1st and July 15th, so we'll pause it June 30th because everything's in, grades are done, we don't need to do anything else with identities. Anybody that's new is going to queue up and be there, and then they turn it back on July 16th. It goes through mass chaos, of course. At that point, gets everything done, and then it's just changes from there on out. So, performance-wise, we're fine with handling that. I just did a POC for an extremely large school district on the East Coast, nearly 300,000 students. They literally wanted to hand me a text file, and I was able to provision the entire, from greenfield, stood up a brand new AD just to test it in under 2 hours. It's about an hour and 45 minutes. Every single account, lots of data. Once I got them all in there, I disabled everything just to test it, so all the accounts got moved to a disabled OU. It moved all the accounts in about 14 minutes and 30 seconds, all 290,000 accounts. Turned around, enabled them all, moved them all back, and distributed them to all the OUs in the same amount of time. So performance-wise, we're smoking fast, and we get those things done. We're not running out to Google, 30,000 accounts at a time. We're doing deltas and making sure that we're only hitting the accounts that changed. Password resets, we're doing those within a minute of each other. So trying to make things very performance, because our students and our teachers, myself, I don't like to sit there and wait for a password to change. Well, I just changed it, and here I am trying to log on. It doesn't work. So the only thing that we're ever at the mercy of in those situations is any kind of replication within the Active Directory environment. But outside of that, we're going to push the password as soon as it's changed. It gets a priority. So, okay. Any other questions?
How fast is the support once you put a ticket in, Eric?
An hour, often. I'll get a response back. Beginning of the school year, it'll let you know they got it. It might be the next day before you get some work done on that. I mean, like all of us are swamped at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah. But our call volume goes way up.
It's really
August, September, October, and January. Believe it or not, coming back after winter breaks. Oh yeah, we get hammered too. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
So I'm just kind of curious. We have a large Hispanic population, and they have a lot of double last names. And our SIS doesn't generate that username very well with the double last names, with the hyphens and that. And so I've been trying to, I see another, like a product like this that has more flexibility to actually generate the username that we want to. So can we feed that? Can we let this develop that username and check it to make sure there aren't any duplicates?
Absolutely.
And then push that back to the SIS?
We got the same problem. I've chosen to drop whatever that second last name is. They get their first and not their last, and all the weird characters out. But you can customize it however you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then push it back.
Push it back. Absolutely. Yep. And then, of course, I will always say as a best practice, and I know everybody in here is going to laugh because it can't be like this. The best practice is you wouldn't use names. You would use numbers, but it's so impersonal. Just my word of advice, you can use usernames for logins, but use names for email addresses and things like that. So I suggest that. Then you don't have to worry about changes and renames and stuff like that. But, we hail from Houston, Texas, so we have a very, very diverse population there, and we're saturated in the Houston, Dallas area, and we do have that same. We've come up with that many, many times. We absolutely can do whatever combination you want. We can remove spaces, special characters, come up with unique usernames, and try to avoid numbers as much as possible, and then send that back to the SI and send it anywhere else as well. Question? Yep. Anybody else?
I had a question about, does it have the capability to differentiate between an email address and an AD account and still have them linked? Say you
Absolutely.
have an AD account that was with digits.
Yep.
And then you have an email that you wanted first and last.
Absolutely, we can do
those
that.
are all tied together.
We'll index those and tie them together.
And then you can use that.
Yep. Yeah, typically we're going to try to take something that's unique from wherever the authoritative system is a student, and try to take that student number, because it's student leaves district, comes back, always gets that student number. Same with staff usually. We're going to take that, and if the downstream system allows us to put that somewhere in an attribute or hold that, we're going to use that because that's the best way. That's guaranteed to be unique. If that doesn't work, what we'll do is we'll do the reverse of that. If we create like a Google account or an Office 365 account, and we'll take that name and we'll push it back into AD, into an auxiliary attribute that we're also using to look in naming and other things. And we'll hold that as an index. You might have 10 things you have to look at for naming, but we can do that. It'll run through that. So that's how we can do it either way. They're good questions. Excellent questions. All right. Okay.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Eric, for putting this together. Appreciate it. And I think everybody.
Thank you. And Shameless plug, we have a table upstairs.
There you go.
Come by and see us.
You're allowed to shamelessly plug.
Excellent.
Thank you. Quit recording.